to the phone lines. We'll talk next to Doris. She's listening on KSIV St. Louis, Missouri. Hi, Doris.
Hi, Hank. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
My question is that I listen most every day, and I've recently heard you talk about how when Jesus returns, heaven will be recreated here on earth without the suffering of death and pain. But my question is, what happens then to everybody who dies now? Everybody who's dead, what happens when you die? Where do you go now in the meantime?
Well, absent from the body, present with the Lord. So what happens at death is there's an unnatural rending between body and soul. To be a human means that you're a body-soul unity. At death, that body-soul unity is disturbed. It is broken. It is wrenched apart. So the body goes back to the grave, or back to the dust from whence it came, and the non-corporeal, the spiritual aspect of humanity, goes to be with the Lord. And then you await what is to come, which is to say that my dad died in 1997, and he was buried. His body's in the grave. His body is no doubt completely decomposed. He's back to dust, as it were, but he's in the presence of God. He's in the presence of God in the sense that Jesus described in Luke 16, in Abraham's bosom or in paradise. These are metaphors for communicating being in the presence of God. But when the Lord returns, with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with a trumpet call of God, the dead in Christ will rise. And what happens is the body is transformed. There's correspondence between the body that died and the body that is resurrected. Now, that doesn't mean that there's the resurrection of every molecule. It simply means that there is correspondence between the two. And therefore, the DNA that made my dad is going to be the DNA that's resurrected. That's a blueprint for his glorified body. But that body will look as different, I suppose, as a butterfly does from a caterpillar. It undergoes a metamorphosis, and the soul returns to that body, and my dad will be what he was intended to be, a glorified human being, resurrected, immortal, imperishable, incorruptible.
Thank you, Hank. And does it make any difference whether when you pass away, if you're buried or whether you're cremated?
Well, God can resurrect the cremated, but cremation doesn't point to the resurrection of God. So I think that if you do cremate, you want to make sure that you divorce cremation from its Eastern underpinnings, which is to say, in its Eastern context, cremation is seen as escape from the body. And then the soul returns continuously dressed up in other bodies. But in a biblical worldview, we believe that this body is going to be resurrected, and therefore we honor the body. And at death, the burial points to something significant. We use this as an opportunity to say, this body will be resurrected. That's the hope of the Christian. It's not to have a panacea in this life. It is to be resurrected in a new heaven and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. Now, one other thing I would say, and that is in relationship to the prologue to your question, that heaven will be recreated on earth. And let me just clarify what's going on. This universe was created by God, and it was, in essence, heaven or paradise. When Adam walked with God in the cool of the day, that was paradise. That was fellowship. That was relationship as it was intended to be. And when Adam sinned, that fellowship was broken. Through the redemption offered by Christ, that fellowship can be restored. And what happens in the restoration is not only that we are resurrected, but the cosmos itself is restored or resurrected to what it was before the advent of sin. So that heaven is not some place out there somewhere where we're going to be strumming a harp like Casper the Ghost on a cloud. But no, it is a real physical universe restored to what it was before sin came into the world.
Thank you so much, Hank. I appreciate your time.
You got it. Thank you so much for your call. And I've written about this in my book, Resurrection. I do think this is an important book. It's part of the trilogy that we have available now through the Christian Research Institute, dealing with the three great apologetic issues. The first issue I dealt with was the issue of origins. How one views their origins determines how they live their life. And so I wrote a book called The Face That Demonstrates the Farce of Evolution. Then the second great apologetic issue that I dealt with is the fact of resurrection. The resurrection is the capstone in the arch of Christianity. It's the hope of the believer. Without resurrection, we don't have any hope. So in that book, I give proof not only for Christ's resurrection, but absolute certainty that we too will be resurrected. And if we grasp that, we can live our lives by an altogether different standard. But the third book, which I just completed, Has God Spoken?, deals with where we get all this information from. How do I know what I'm talking about is true? Well, that question is answered when you can say, God has spoken. And that's why I answer that question, has God spoken, in the affirmative and say, yes, you can trust the Bible as the infallible repository of redemptive revelation. We can know that we know that we know that what the Bible is communicating is indeed true. Of course, we also need to know how to read the Bible for all it's worth. That's why I wrote, Has God Spoken? But again, all three books are available, and right now, this month, for your gift to the ministry of the Christian Research Institute, the crowning jewel of my writing is this book, Has God Spoken? Proof of the Bible's Divine Inspiration. It is available right now, again, for your gift, and if you give $100 or more, a personalized copy, or if you join the monthly Bible Answer Man support team. Check it out on the World Wide Web at equip.org, or just talk to our resource consultants, 888 7000 CRI. Right back in just a moment with more of your questions.